It's officially fall here in Denmark, but I wanted to sneak in one last summer dress project, hopefully before my trip to Japan. I mentioned in a previous video that I have all these different samples of mostly checkered patterns saved up, hoarding them like a goblin. But now is the time to try to use them for something. This will be my second attempt at working with patchwork and my first time making a dress. So today I'll be making the most checkered printed dress ever. I start by making rows for my fabrication, constructing rows of the same length. My inspiration for working with patchwork really comes from watching Carly B's videos, who is an amazing sewist here on YouTube, and she has a great in-depth video of how to work with patchwork. And my inspiration for working with the checkered design really comes from Vivienne Westwood, the queen of tartan prints. I'm just making up the fabrication row by row. I try not to be too worried about the placement of the different colors, but try to at least have a common thread in the neighboring pieces of fabric. And otherwise, it's just all based on whatever makes me smile and whatever pieces of color I fancy the most. I'm trying to get this dress done in under 2 weeks so that I can bring it for my trip to Japan. I'm not overlocking the edges of each seam, as this would be very time-consuming, especially considering I don't have an overlocker. So I'm really relying on using some lining for this piece instead. Not the most elegant choice, but one that's necessary in this scenario. In hindsight, I think it would have looked much cleaner if I had overlocked each seam and then top stitched as well, but I simply just didn't have time for that. So I'm just pressing out all the seams each time a row is done, and then attaching a row to the length of my fabrication. I need at least 2 meters in length and 1.5 meters in width to make up this dress. After rows and rows and rows are pieced together, I finally got to the part of making the dress. I'm using a pattern by Les Perlin. Now, this is a bias cut dress pattern, which I already to begin with have my doubts about whether this would work for my fabrication, but I really had a vision for this type of design of dress shape, so I decided to give it a try. I cut my skirt on what is sort of the bias of my fabric, and each seam that I cut into, I made sure to sew over all the open seams. The issue for this bias cut dress lied more in the fact that I had many different types of fabric. I cut out the pieces for the lining as well. The pattern for this dress only calls for a lining for the top, but since I had no choice but to line my skirt, I cut out 2 skirt pieces on the bias of the lining as well. I attached the 2 front bodice pieces right sides together. And then attached front and back of the bodice. For the straps, I made 2 long straps and 2 short pieces to attach with an adjustable strap kit, and then first attach the short pieces to the lining back, right sides together, then attach the long pieces of the straps to the front bodice lining, and attach lining front and back together, and then place lining and outside bodice right sides together, making sure that the straps were kept out of the way. I then sewed along the neckline and cut snips into the seam allowance for it to sit nice and flush. After attaching the 2 back skirt pieces together, I attached the front and back right sides together. Followed the same procedure for the lining as I did with the top. And then finally, I could attach skirt and top together. And then we're done. I finished this dress just in time for my trip to Japan. This dress was both a joy and a challenge to make. It's not as flowy as a typical bias cut skirt, but I wasn't exactly expecting that, and I still really liked the way it turned out. It's a chaotic experience of patterns, but I love it. All the different colors and prints makes me so happy. I'm I'm sorry I didn't get to film a very in-depth video of making the dress, but I was really on a time crunch at the end, trying to finish this the day before leaving. I still hope you enjoyed watching, and if you like this video, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you in my next one.